Hello everyone, welcome back to On the Fly. Today we're going to be previewing the team representing Canada at the 2025 Women's World Championship happening in Česká Budějovice, Czechia. So, before we get too far into today, a little bit of the history of this tournament. So, for Canada, this is a team that, has been prominent at this tournament, all but 1 year not finishing top two. Remember back to 2019 with the miracle in Espoo, where Finland on home ice nearly took the championship. And this year especially, I think, might be something similar, where we have an underdog Czech team who might be in that contention range this year against Canada, against the U.S. Wouldn't surprise me to see it, but clear-cut favorites coming into this tournament is Canada and the U.S., as they always are. This year especially, you think back, the last 3 of the 4 tournaments Canada's taken. So I think if you're looking at the general favorite walking into this tournament, obviously coming up on an Olympic year of the 2026 Milan, it's going to be a tone setter for that Olympics. And we'll see sort of what happens in terms of whether, the physicality picks up, whether people are playing to that standard of, yeah, we're going to the Olympics, we're going to represent our country, now it's a tryout for each and every game. So a couple players, obviously, we'll be talking about in a little bit here, but for the general standard of this tournament, expect it to be competitive, and don't expect it to be that standard Women's World Championship tournament where we see one team take it all. I think this year especially, keep an eye out for some of the underdogs, because it really isn't a guarantee yet. And especially as this tournament goes on, you're going to see some dogs definitely take a shot at the favorites. And I don't think it'll be a clean sail for Canada. We've seen it in the past, even in the men's tournament so far this international season with the World Juniors. It's not what it once was. And women's hockey is on the very similar track where the countries are catching up with the big Canadas and the big USAs. It's only a matter of time for a team like Czechia makes their mark. So for Canada, obviously the goal is gold for this year. The one thing I will also mention, all three tournaments that we've covered on this channel have ended in a Canada gold. So if you're looking for a betting favorite, might be your chance. But we'll talk more about the general tournament in tomorrow's video. We'll also have a prediction video coming out the day before, as we are now 3 days away from the Women's World Championship kicking off. The April the 9th is the first day of games. As always, we'll have our full coverage here on the channel, including day recaps and previews and all of that, all you can ever hope for from this tournament. So be sure to stick around. But now let's introduce who will be representing Canada at this year's Women's World Championship. We'll start here with the forwards with Laura Stacey, Sarah Fillier, Brianne Jenner, Sarah Nurse, Natalie Spooner, Emily Clark, Emma Malte, Marie-Philippe Poulin, Julia Gosling, Blair Turnbull, Kristen O'Neill, Daniel Serdachny, Jen Gardner, and Daryl Watts. For the forwards, onto the defense we go with Sophie Jakes, Jocelyn Rock, Chloe Primerano, Renata Fast, Ella Shelton, Erin Ambrose, Mika Zandihart, and Claire Thompson. Then the goalies we go with Anne-Renee Desbiens, Eve Gascon, and Kristen Campbell in net. So when we look at this team, obviously a lot of returning players. We have 18 returning players from last year's team, five players making their debuts at the Women's Worlds in terms of the tournament. And those 5 are Jen Gardner, Eve Gascon, Sophie Jakes, Chloe Primerano, and Daryl Watts. And the other player that was left off was Hannah Miller. There's been quite a bit of controversy around that. Obviously, when we look at this tournament with the 2-year rule with the IIHF, would not surprise me to see Hannah Miller at the Olympics representing Canada. There was a whole controversy around the 2-year transfer. Originally was on the team. Instead, the IIHF basically ruled, no, you're not eligible. So instead of that, instead of Hannah Miller, Julia Gosling will be taking her place on the team. So very interesting team composition. You take a lot of the same players from last year, and we talked about that last year in sort of, when you're looking at this sort of team, you're looking to see who's going to make their mark, because it's basically a tryout. The first year, or last year especially, was sort of that tryout for the Olympics. We saw the Americans go very much so on the younger side, try and play for that potential for that 26. Canada went with a little bit of the older route, and we see that similar here, where a lot of those veterans are still kind of around, but notable names off the list is someone like Jamie Lee Rattray or Emirates Mashmeyer, who very well could be there. And one thing I'll also mention is Anne-Renee Desbiens, injured as of right now. Not sure what her status will be. And if we look back at the previous tournaments, a crucial part to Canada's success, especially at this tournament, and most likely will be that pivotal factor. If she can play, Canada has a very good shot at winning this tournament. If she doesn't, then you look to see who's next. Is it going to be Campbell? Is it going to be Gascon? Very well could be either of them. I think you have to give a little bit of the edge to Campbell just based off, with the professional status, being there, playing in the big games. But it very well could be Gascon, and it's going to be interesting to see sort of how that goaltending matchup works out. And then the other thing I will also mention, especially with the forwards, is all the Toronto Scepters and that sort of PWHL factor that I think is going to be extremely prevalent in this tournament, where you get players where they're playing together. I've had a little bit of that in the past, but not necessarily to the extent that it is now, where you have a league and you have players playing with each other throughout the entire year. So I'll be curious to see sort of how players are mixed and matched. You have Philippe Poulin and Stacy and Jen Gardner and Kristen O'Neill from the Montreal Victoire, and that might be something that is interesting to see, right? Is how much of that PWHL connection are the coaches going to roll with, and how much of it will be from playing with each other in years past. And it's always sort of the thing with these international tournaments. We've seen it a lot on the men's side, especially with the NHL players, right? Where they play together from basically the entire season. And so most of the time, these international teams are built around, we even saw with the Four Nations, where there was the majority of Tampa players or the majority of whatever other team it was, Florida players, right? Where you can sort of mix and match lines based on players who have already played together, who know each other and know how each other play. I think it'll be very similar this year, where you'll see a lot more matching of players who play on their respective PWHL teams, who have had that year and a bit now to find that chemistry. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest impacts at this tournament, is to see, obviously Canada went with a much more PWHL approach, and you'll see it with the American team, much more college based. I think this PWHL roster, where you have players that have already played together, is going to be a pivotal factor. And I think it's going to be the key to success for Canada in this tournament, if they are going to be able to find that early chemistry and keep it going throughout the entire tournament, or if that American team can find their chemistry, especially late. I think that'll be something to definitely keep note of there, as well as the goaltending. Those are pretty much my key. The defense will be what the defense are. Obviously, as always, Canada's a lockdown team in defense. And same with the forwards, highly skilled players. So I don't think in terms of the goal scoring, it'll be a problem. I don't think keeping the puck out of the net will be a problem for Canada. I just think it's going to be about which team comes to play against a tough American team. And you might be wondering, when are they going to play? Well, let's talk about it. With the schedule coming up, so we start here with the prelims for Canada on April 10th at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. All these times are in Eastern Standard Time, so they will play Finland, opening it up. I do expect Canada to take this one, but once again, at this point in this IIHF season already, hasn't made a ton of sense. So I should probably hold my predictions for the prediction video, so that way I can get grilled in that. Then they'll play on April 11th, 9 a.m. They'll play Switzerland. This will be, once again, should be a walk for Canada, but once again, you never know. April 13th is going to be your game of the day, of course, with 1 o'clock against the Americans. And this game has always been an interesting one with Canada, because they either come to play or they hold it, and we'll see which one comes to play. I think you think about everything that's going on right now, and with the tension especially for the Canadian side, I think you're going to see a Canadian team come out invigorated to play, and I think it's going to be a good one, especially coming into an Olympic year. You'll see a lot of players try and make their mark at this tournament. So whether or not it's, trying to find ways to get your hits in, whatever it might be, look for players to really take that next step here, because at the end of the day, it is a tryout for that Olympic team. This is the last tournament you'll see before the Olympics get chosen. So something to keep an eye on there. I'll be interested to see what goes on. I think I might give that first game to the Americans and the second game to the Canadians, as I so often do. But be sure to come back for the prediction video, where we'll break everything down from there. And then Canada will play the host Czechia on April 14th at 1 o'clock as well. This will be I think a game that'll surprise a lot of people. I think you're going to see a Canadian team be put on their heels for at least a little bit of the game, if not all of the game. So once again, something to take note of, because the Czechs at this tournament are a weird one. We've seen even in the IIHF Men's World Championships that would have been last year, where it was in Czechia, we saw that the Czech team just all of a sudden hit that next gear playing on home ice. Would not surprise me to see a lot of that to be the same in this one. And the Czechs are a team at this tournament very well could contend with a team like Canada. If they can bring their game, Canada plays an off game, similar to the Americans play an off game. Don't be surprised to see the Czechs jump on it. Then to the playoffs we go, assuming Canada automatically makes it, of course, with the women's standings. So it goes A1 versus B3, A2 versus B2, A3 versus B1, and then A4 and A5 will play each other in the quarters. So assuming Canada can take one of the top two spots in Group A, assuming nothing crazy happens, there are no big upsets that happen there where, you know, the Americans or the Canadians are out of those top two spots, they'll likely play B3 or B2. We'll talk about tomorrow and the day after about who those teams might be. But that'll be April 17th, time to be determined. Once again, no set time for Canada. They're not the host. Czechs are the only team with a set time. Then to the semifinals, we go on April 19th to be determined again. Likely you'll be playing a team like a Finland, a Czechia in the semis, unless something once again happens where maybe it's the Swiss or maybe some upset happens in there in the quarterfinals where a team gets knocked off. But likely you'll be seeing a team like Czechia or Finland in the semis there on April 19th. Then to the bronze medal game we go on April 20th at 8 a.m. Eastern time, as well as Canada hopefully will play in the gold medal game on April 20th at 12 o'clock noon Eastern time as well. So that's the schedule. I think the game that'll surprise a lot of people is the Czech game. I think the Finns are never an easy out. The U.S. will always be an interesting one. And then, of course, the playoffs, we'll see what goes on there, but don't be surprised for Canada. And I think at the end of the day, it comes down to the expectations. And I fully expect Canada to make another run for gold at this tournament, because at the end of the day, it's our sport. If you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. If you'd like to drop a like, if you realize you're subscribing, tell all your friends and comment down below your thoughts on Team Canada, the Women's Worlds. Until next time, see you.